morning, everybody. Good morning, everyone, and thank you very much for coming to celebrate a wonderful announcement here in the city of Providence. We haven't had this many distinguished people in the City Hall since I raised taxes the last time, but it's a long time ago. But we have so many, we have, as you can see, a distinguished list of people or array of talent and people who work for cities who are here today joining me in this wonderful, wonderful old historic building. In the audience, there are many people who should be recognized because they have helped us come to this day. Our Lieutenant Governor Fogarty, who has been a true champion of the city of Providence and the state of Rhode Island. And certainly we have with us Representative Giannini, we have our State Representative McCauley, Senator Graziano, State Representative Constantino, and State Representative Tom Slater. We have members of our City Council here, members of our government, and people who are members of our lead task force. So thank you all very much for coming. Heads of our housing authority, heads of RIMFAC, and we also have a representative from Senator Chafee's office, John Goodman. So I want to thank all of you for coming as we unveil a historic program for America right from this very room. So give them all a big round of applause because of this is going to be kind of a different way we do things. I'm going to introduce Patricia Nolan, the Director of Health for our state, and then I'll leave it up to you to see how this thing comes to a crescendo, and everyone kind of introduces people. But it is a tremendous honor to welcome to Providence and the Providence City Hall the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, Andrew Cuomo. Secretary Cuomo leads HUD with extraordinary commitment, compassion, vision, and vigor. With eloquence and passion, he provokes us as a nation to action, to confront the challenges that must be met in order to form a more perfect America. I'm honored to work with the Secretary through the auspices of the United States Conference of Mayors, and honored to work with him and the HUD officials who have been really responsive to us on the major new lead poisoning prevention program we initiate in our capital city as a result of the announcement the Secretary will make today. Because I don't think he came all the way from Washington this morning, got really to tell us that he had nothing to say about lead paint. We're all immensely grateful that Secretary Cuomo has selected Providence as the city in which to unveil the federal government's major new initiative in eliminating on a national scale the scourge of lead poisoning from our lives, and most especially from the lives of our children, our future. I'm proud and pleased to acknowledge the presence of our government and local leaders who are equally as committed to meeting and overcoming the considerable challenges involved in formulating a seamless, systematic, synergistic approach to conquering this preventable housing and health problem. I also welcome Dr. Patricia Nolan and the other Congressman Wagon, Congressman Kennedy, and Senator Jack Reed. The announcement the Secretary makes today has an overwhelming positive impact upon the lives of millions around our country and thousands right here in Providence and in our state. The assistance being given to us in our capital city by HUD to implement lead-based paint hazard control programs will have both immediate and far-reaching ramifications, empowering us to build the capacity of government, our community-based organizations, parents, property owners, and trade workers to take a far, far better and more proactive approach to creating healthy, lead-free neighborhoods. In March of last year, I didn't know much about lead poisoning. In fact, I hadn't heard much about it at all. In fact, maybe it was a little bit before that. And I was approached by people from an organization in the south side of our city, and they kind of gave me an education. And I established the Mayor's Safe Housing Lead Task Force, charging those whom I appointed, some 54 leaders representing a broad cross-section of our community, with the substantial goal of creating lead-safe housing and eliminating lead poisoning from our children's life. When the task force began its deliberations, many of us saw childhood lead poisoning wholly as a problem and a threat. There is no doubt that this entirely preventable disease, with its potential to irreversibly damage the ability of children under the age of 6 to learn and to succeed in school, is a very serious problem. I never believed that was the case. I wasn't had to be taught that. But I found out that it could seriously debilitate a kid's learning process. In 1998, a third of the children under 6 screened in Providence were found to have blood levels above the levels of concern. As the task force deliberations unfolded, we have come to see lead poisoning prevention as an opportunity to come together as families, neighborhoods, and as a city. The grant from HUD that we hopefully will receive today gives us a chance to send our children to school more ready to learn because they have not been damaged by lead-based paint, and to create healthy neighborhoods through improving our aging housing stock and to lift the burden from struggling low-income families. I want to recognize all the members of the task force, their co-chairs, Roberta Aronson, the Executive Director of Childhood Lead Action Project, and Lou Fasano, President of HELP, and my staff, liaison to the task force, Deputy Director of Policy, Bianca Gray, and certainly Policy Associate Rachel Eddy for their fine work and as leaders combating lead. Thanks to Secretary Cuomo, we're presented with a renewed ability to tackle the problems posed by our older housing stock. We embark on a mission that calls for all of us to have the zeal of inner-city missionaries to create a civil rights movement of the new millennium that rings and resounds with all of the extraordinary spirit and conviction characterizing the civil rights movement of the 50s and 60s. And we join to eliminate lead hazards from our states, our cities, our homes. We again address issues of race, of poverty, of equality, of substandard housing. We again are charged with breaking down the artificial barriers preventing people from leading good, decent lives of dignity, from fulfilling their promise and achieving their dreams. This time our focus is on children, but isn't it always? Hasn't it always been? And we must overcome, and we shall overcome, the ravages of lead paint poisoning and the damage it imposes on our kids and our society. I want to thank you all for coming, and I want to introduce to you now a person who's been with us side by side, shoulder to shoulder, each step of the way, not only leading this fight, but also being our partner in many other areas of human concern and in our state. So I'll introduce to you, representing the governor, Dr. Patricia Nolan, the Director of Health for the state of Rhode Island.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to be here on behalf of Governor Almond and on behalf of the Health Department and the other agencies of state government who are deeply concerned about the problem of lead poisoning in children. We have been trying to address the problem of lead poisoning in our children for many years. First, we got the lead out of gasoline, and we improved the quality of our urban environments immensely. Then we began really looking at the remaining sources of lead poisoning in our children's lives. And we found that the primary danger was in our own homes. And in this community and the other cities in Providence, that is especially a problem. The danger lurks in our windows and in our walls and in our doorways and on our floors and in our yards. And this opportunity to really go after that problem full scale is a major opportunity for our city and state. Today, the governor is also inaugurating the Rhode Island Housing Resources Commission. And we hope that the Housing Resources Commission will bring together not only the issues of lead poisoning in our homes, but the other problems of substandard and unsafe housing that plague our lives. Our children are not only poisoned by lead, but their lives are dampened by the fact that they have such transience in housing in our communities. And that transience leads to poorer development and poorer school performance. When combined with the lead poisoning problem, the other problems in our housing are of great importance. Bringing those all together and addressing our housing issue as a state is extremely important, and I'm excited by the fact that that opportunity is being inaugurated as well. One other opportunity that we have developed here in the state, thanks to the vision of Director Ferguson at the Department of Human Services, is the unique idea that safe windows are durable medical equipment under the Medicaid program. And by moving forward in this fashion, we're going to be able to help children in our community who have already experienced lead in their lives to have safer homes by being able to replace those windows using Medicaid money. It really brings together so many of the important issues for our children, and the governor and I are very excited about the expanded opportunity that Secretary Cuomo is bringing today. Thank you very much for coming, and we look forward to your remarks.
She was, okay, I thought that you were going to introduce Bob, but I will introduce Congressman Wagan. As you know, Congressman Wagan was formerly Lieutenant Governor of the state of Rhode Island, and he now represents us in Congress and has been a strong advocate of cities across America, and especially the city of Providence. And so I want to welcome him once again to Providence City Hall, and let's give him a big hand.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. Mayor Cianci, Secretary Cuomo, Senator Reed, Congressman Kennedy, and Dr. Nolan, and Lieutenant Governor Fogarty, I want to welcome you all here today because this is indeed something that's important to the wide gamut of the people that are here. The people that are here representing us really do believe in this issue, Mr. Secretary. And if our staffs have been bothering you every day and every night for the last 3 months, it's because we believe so sincerely in this issue. When we first came in a little bit earlier this morning, we were up in the mayor's office, and the first thing the mayor said to the secretary was, "Andy, you got the check?" And the secretary turned around and said, "Gee, I forgot the check." And the mayor turned around immediately to his police officer and said, "Please get him his car." This is indeed very, very important. And when people like Dr. Nolan and Roberta Aronson and all the people that are involved with lead action and the problems that affect our kids talk about it, like the mayor said, many of us didn't know how important it was until we got educated about it. When you start thinking about some of the kids that are being affected and what can happen to them, you realize that this has long-range impacts, not simply on these children and their families, but on the taxpayers who will have to support them and all kinds of other means that will have to be given to these kids to try to get them back on track. So it's not just a Providence issue. It's just not a Elmwood or a South Providence or an Armory District issue. It's an issue for all taxpayers and all people across the state. Now, when you hear about 1 in every 3 children in Providence are affected by this, 1 in 6 in Cranston, 1 in 6 in Westerly, 1 in 2 in Block Island are affected by this problem. It is not solely here, and that's why the Secretary's announcement day today, both for the state and the city, is so important. This is not just one little isolated location. It happens in Patrick's district, it happens in my district, it happens all over the state of Rhode Island. That's why it is key for us to work together. So I want to thank the Secretary for coming here. Thank him because not only I can now get my staff to work on some other things, but I can get Buddy Cianci off my back because every time I see him, he asks me the same question. But Mr. Secretary, there's something else that we are doing that you have been leading in this charge, and that is the whole idea with the Vice President on livable communities. Livable communities is more than just the issue of smart growth. It is about housing. It is about police protection. It is about abating crime and drug. It is about all the things that make communities like cities like Providence more livable. Just yesterday, the Vice President announced another 100,000 more housing vouchers that will be eligible for low-income and elderly people, some of which can use it now for assisted living in the city area, that we can get more housing through low-income tax credits like we're getting right up off Candace Street in Providence. Those are the things that make cities more livable, including this kind of assistance with regard to lead. So, Mr. Secretary, I want to thank you for your direction, your vision, and your leadership on this, and the way that you have really responded to Rhode Island and Providence. It is indeed a great day for us. We have more to do, and with your assistance, we'll be able to do that. Thank you very, very much. Thank you. Now it's my pleasure to introduce my colleague, Patrick Kennedy. As all of you know, Patrick and I split the city of Providence in half in terms of our representative district, but we are not divided in our goal and our vision to make sure that Providence not only gets its fair share of federal money, Mr. Secretary, but also to make sure that we indeed improve the quality of neighborhoods and community for Rhode Island. Please welcome Congressman Patrick Kennedy.
Thank you very much, Bob. And I want to acknowledge all of my colleagues in state government who we work with very closely, and also our new Lieutenant Governor, Charlie Fogarty, is going to do a dynamic job in that spot as a great advocate for the people of the state. I want to say what a special pleasure it is to be with Patricia Nolan. I remember her sitting down with me going through the priorities of the Department of Health last year, and this was her top priority. So it really is no mistake that we're here today, because we had everybody from the top on down, from Senator Reid and Bob, and of course Mayor Cianci, who is a tireless champion of all the people of Providence and is known the nation round. I was just down was walking to the White House last week to go to the First Lady's announcement on health care, especially with respect to asthma. And that's another issue that affects our inner cities, and particularly our minority community. And it goes back to the mayor's point about the civil rights movement. The new civil rights movement is an environmental rights movement for inner city children who are disproportionately minorities and who are taking the brunt of the environmental degradation of the last 3 decades. So all I did was I kept running into mayors, and all of them said, "You've got the greatest mayor of Providence, Mayor Cianci. He's keeping us all going down here." It's as if he's mayor of Washington, D.C., the way he's hosting us down here. So I know that that counts for a lot, because when it comes to Mayor Cianci calling up Andrew Cuomo, Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, certainly Secretary Cuomo knows that he's dealing with a real leader within the Conference of Mayors and Mayor Cianci. And I'm so thrilled to be able to stand here today with Mayor Cianci and Andrew Cuomo, my colleagues Jack Reed and Bob Wagan, to announce this important news. Many people have said already about how they came to learn about lead poisoning. I came to learn about it through my brother Teddy. My brother Teddy runs the Late Abetment Project in New Haven, Connecticut, and has pioneered a way of getting money from his cousin and my cousin Andrew Cuomo. I don't know how he managed to do that, but somehow he managed to get some HUD funds for this safe lead house, so that when children are treated for lead poisoning at Yale New Haven Hospital, instead of going back into their old home, which has yet to be cleaned up, they can go to a safe home, and so they'd be saved from having further contamination. But as Bob said about the prevalence of lead poisoning in our state, it's something that we cannot ignore. And it's certainly the reason my brother got into it is he went to a School of Environmental Studies at Yale, but he's also a champion in the disability movement, having lost his leg to cancer. But he understands the correlation between environment and disability, public health and disability. And this is a perfect example where the environment that people live in affects their way of life and affects disability, because clearly one of the greatest environmental hazards to children is lead poisoning. Eating the lead paint, eating the dust from lead that's painted on all of our homes, particularly in New England, which is endemic with this lead poisoning problem, and it really is an environmental hazard that has to be addressed. We really have to thank Andrew Cuomo for giving the lion's share of money within this program to Rhode Island. I dare say there's probably another state in this country that's going to garner as much from this lead abatement program that the Housing and Urban Development is running than Rhode Island. And it's a real testimony to everyone's work here on the grassroots level to make sure that this is done. Later today, I'm going to be talking about our asthma initiatives. That's another endemic problem, particularly within our communities here in the state. And the ever-rising incidences of asthma and lead poisoning should ring a bell in our minds, that we cannot afford to let this environmental degradation affect our future generations. The last 2 weeks, we had Woonasquatucket, where you know that we've been studying the dioxin problem, and Katy Field down in Newport, where they also have a problem with the suspicion of dioxin in the baseball field down there. And I can tell you, when I had all the parents come from the Little League to talk about their worries with respect to their children, you know, I can't think of they were all asking, what can we do? Bring our kids to get tested, what can we do? If we want to help our kids today, there isn't anything we can do in our state to help our kids, protect them from their environmental hazards, than to invest in lead paint abatement that this program is going to allow us to do. Dioxin's a big problem. We've got to address it, and it's certainly, when you compare dioxin and cancer-causing chemicals to lead, it doesn't seem like there's any comparison. It seems like dioxin's off the charts. But when you think about the real hazard that these two pose, it's really lead that's posing the near term and the greatest challenge to our kids. So that's why this announcement today is going to be so important. And let me, at this time, introduce Senator Reed, who has been a terrific champion of children in the state. You all know how hard he works for our schools. His Goals 2000 program has Senator Reed's name on it. When you talk to anyone in Washington, D.C., it was his efforts in the House before he went to the Senate, and now in the Senate, continuing to champion Goals 2000, which focuses on making sure our children are prepared. So it's no small coincidence that he's also working to make sure our children are protected and ready to learn when they go to school. It's my great pleasure to introduce Jack Reed, a great champion for Rhode Island.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Secretary Cuomo, Mayor Cianci, Congressman Wagan, Congressman Kennedy, Dr. Nolan, distinguished colleagues in government, particularly Lieutenant Governor Fogarty. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure to be here, and I first want to welcome Secretary Cuomo here to Providence and thank him because he arranged his schedule so that I could attend this ceremony. Up until late yesterday afternoon, I thought I'd be on jury duty this afternoon, but I am here.
You are.
I'd particularly like to recognize and thank and commend Mayor Cianci for his leadership in addressing this problem so vigorously and with so much determination, and putting together the lead task force and making this city work very hard to ensure that every child is safe, at least as safe as we can make them from the scourge of lead poisoning. And of course, the state government, Governor Almond, Dr. Nolan, they've been working diligently also, and I thank them. And I particularly want to commend my colleagues, Congressman Kennedy, Congressman Wagan, Senator Chafee, because their efforts in the Senate and the Congress, the House of Representatives, are very, very critical to our success here today. We really need the help, Mr. Secretary, and we appreciate you bringing us this help. 44% of our state's housing was built before 1950, in which lead paint was used consistently in every nook and cranny of these homes. And that translates to huge lead exposures throughout every community in this state. Because lead paint was used, it's there, it's in these homes, and children can have access to them. In fact, as I toured with Roberta Aronson, the West Elmwood project, I discovered a simple way that kids get lead paint. I can recall, in fact, I'm not too far away from the time when I could just reach up to the windowsill with my teeth and bite into it. That's what kids do. They go to the window, they watch their older brothers and sisters play outside, and they just chew on those windowsills, and those old houses are just full of lead paint, and guess what? They get exposures, and we have to stop that. Roughly 1 in 5 children in this state are exposed to lead, and it's throughout our entire state. About a third in Providence, 28%, are exposed to lead, have lead poisoning when they're screened for this particular condition. 27% of the children in Central Falls, 18% in Woonsocket, 16% in Pawtucket, 14% in Newport. And as Bob indicated, it is even prevalent in communities that we think are rather affluent and beyond, we think, this problem of lead poisoning. And it affects tremendously their physical development and their mental development. One of the great ironies of our system is that we spend millions and millions of dollars a year on special education, yet until very recently, we haven't attacked one of the great causes of that disability, that is lead exposure to children in the homes throughout the entire United States. We're starting to turn our attention to that problem. I've been working very closely with my colleagues in the Congress and also with Secretary Cuomo. Last year, I was able to sponsor an appropriations increase of $20 million on the VA HUD bill. And with the help of Secretary Cuomo, that money now is going in to lead paint abatement. We're also working with the Department of HUD to have a memorandum of understanding for our Section 8 housing so that these facilities will not be prone to lead paint exposure. I would like to, in the next few weeks or so, bring the Senate Banking Committee back to Providence to look at how well we're doing with this memorandum of understanding. Just a year ago, we had a hearing of the Senate Banking Committee in Providence at City Arts, and I see Sister Ann here, who is one of the many community leaders who are interested in this problem. We had myself and Senator Hagel to come up and talk about lead paint, the hazard to children, and we hope in some small way it contributed to the success we've had in the Congress with that hearing. We have a lot more to do, but we're building on a great foundation. We're building on a foundation of community involvement and participation. The Childhood Lead Action Project, the Greater Elmwood Neighborhood Services, those agencies are leading the way. They're inspiring us. They are leading us forward to what we hope is a better future for our children. We're pleased that Secretary Cuomo has come here. We're particularly delighted because he has been such a leader, not just in the issue of lead paint, not just in the issue of public housing, but in the whole gamut of issues that are the province of the Department of Housing and Urban Development. A few years ago, HUD was seen as one of the weak sisters of the federal government, someone that could not perform adequately, resources were wasted. The transformation began under his predecessor and our dear friend Henry Cisneros. But that transformation process has accelerated with great momentum under the tremendous leadership of Andrew Cuomo. His leadership, his vision has been recognized throughout this country. For example, Dave Osborne, who's the guru of retransforming America and reinventing government. In his words, one of the most ambitious, fundamental, and exciting reinvention plans in the recent history of the federal government is Andrew Cuomo's plans for the Housing Urban Development Department of the federal government. Congress recognizes this. Last year, we gave HUD its biggest budget increase in more than a decade, including also a new public housing bill that will allow us to transform public housing. In addition, we gave the Secretary authority for the first new affordable housing vouchers in 5 years, and that's a tribute to our confidence in Secretary Cuomo. The President also recognizes the tremendous improvement and tremendous leadership that Andrew has given to HUD. This budget that was sent up just a few days ago includes a $2.5 billion increase for HUD. It also will provide 100,000 vouchers, a senior housing plan, and innovative economic development programs throughout the entire United States. Literally, Secretary Cuomo has put HUD back in business, the business of helping people. And we're particularly gratified that he has worked with us for increased money for lead paint and lead abatement throughout this country. He's also a champion of the Healthy Homes campaign, which is an educational project which will ensure that everyone understands the dangers and the opportunities in their homes. It is indeed a great privilege, a great pleasure to welcome to Providence and to Rhode Island Secretary of HUD, Andrew Cuomo. Andrew?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Senator, for the kind introduction. It's a pleasure to be with all of you here today. But first, I must profess a little confusion, all this talk about a grant and giving checks and money. I just came here to get more Buddy Cianci tomato sauce. That's what I'm doing, Providence. Let it be known that I know tomato sauce, and I have no other tomato sauce in my home than Buddy Cianci tomato sauce. On a serious note, Patrick was mentioning what your mayor means to the Conference of Mayors, and he was exactly right. Not just for the Conference of Mayors, but cities all across this nation. What we now need as a nation, when it comes to cities and urban development, is to show the American people that we can actually take these things called cities and bring them back to their former glory, that they have a place in the future of this nation as opposed to just a memory from the past. And the American people want to believe that, but they want to see it also. So when you have a mayor like Mayor Cianci and you have a city like Providence and you can say, come see what you can do. When you have good leadership and you have people who really want to make a difference, you can see the future and you can see the future in Providence. And that goes in large part to the leadership of Mayor Cianci. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much.
Senator Jack Reed, you know what the senator does for the state. He is a phenomenal advocate. What he has done for the HUD, Department of Housing by and large, because the senator is on our committee, on the HUD committee in the Senate, and he fights our fight as Congressman Wagan fights in the House. Specific to today, the funding for the lead-based paint is actually up $20 million from last year because of the good work that Senator Reed did. He did it on his own. So he really made today possible, and we're going to need the senator and Congressman Wagan going forward because, as you heard, President Clinton put forth a great budget for HUD. $2.5 billion increase. Best budget in over a decade, certainly the best budget of the Clinton administration, but that's only the president's proposal. It now has to become a reality, which means it has to go to a body in Washington they call the United States Congress, which means it has to go through the Senate once they get finished doing what they are doing now, and then it has to go through the House. It has to become law. And there's going to be a very cold wind blowing, is my guess, through the Congress. And we're going to need real champions to get this done, real fighters for cities and for people who need help. And we have those fighters in Senator Jack Reed and Congressman Bob Wagan, and they're going to make it happen. Thank you. Congressman Kennedy, you know what kind of fighter he is for the district. You can imagine what he does when he then is also a family member of the person he's attacking. You've heard about the tenacity of the Kennedys. It's all true, let me tell you. He has talked about this grant and talked about what he needs for his district. We can be at birthday parties. We can be on summer vacations. It doesn't matter to him. He comes and he makes the case for his district. It is a Kennedy trait. True story, I picked up the phone last week before, and I hear my 4-year-old daughter is on the telephone talking to someone, or talking the best way a 4-year-old can talk, and I hear on the other side a voice that sounds familiar. It's Senator Ted Kennedy saying to my 4-year-old, "Tell Daddy Boston needs more HUD money. Tell Daddy." So they are tenacious. A couple of weeks ago, the President put forth his State of the Union. And in that State of the Union address, he talked about how well this nation is doing, because the nation is doing extraordinarily well. The economy is breaking all sorts of records. But the President was also quick to mention the second story that is also America. And that is the story of how much more needs to be done. We have this great economy and this great record of accomplishment, but we have a lot of problems that still need to be addressed. And that's what we do at HUD every day. You have cities across the nation that need real help stepping into this new economy. And if we don't do it now, when are we going to do it? We really need more affordable housing. We have the highest need for affordable housing in history. We have problems with poverty. We have problems with income inequality. And now is the time to address them. We have problems with lead-based paint, which I tell you, I was not fully familiar with this problem before I became the HUD Secretary, which is the problem. I should have known. Too many people are like me, they didn't know about the problem. And I thought it was a limited problem and it was someone else's problem, certainly couldn't be mine or my family's. Baloney, just shows how little I knew. I thought to get lead poisoning, a child would have to eat a lead paint chip almost like a potato chip. I thought that's how it happened. That's not how it happens. The lead is all around us. It's in the homes. It's in the paint. The doors open and close. The windows open and shut. And the paint wears away into a very fine dust. And then the child crawls on the floor. The hand picks up the dust. You can't even see it. The child eats a cookie, and the child just ingested lead. And then you have lead poisoning. And it is for life. It damages the brain. It damages the nervous system. It is irreversible. Child plays in the yard, picks up a ball, breathes the air, lead poisoning. Lead poisoning does not discriminate. It's blacks, it's whites, it's rich, it's poor, it's everywhere. It's estimated in the nation 5% of all the children between 1 to 5 have lead poisoning. 16% nationwide of low-income children. Here in the state, it's about 20% by some numbers. In Providence, close to 30% by some numbers. As we step forward to the new millennium, we still have children being poisoned from paint used decades ago. It is inexcusable. 3 things we have to do. Number 1, educate. Educate, educate, educate. That's what we're trying to do today. Get the word out. It is your home. It is your family. It could be your child. Educate. Second, enforce. That's what Senator Reid was talking about. It is illegal to know that you have lead paint in an apartment and not do something about it. It is illegal. Enforce the laws. The senator has been very aggressive with a memorandum of understanding that says we will not tolerate this anymore. The Attorney General has stepped up to the plate and has to keep going. Enforce the laws. Don't let greed poison a child. And third, we have to clean it up. We have to get it out. We know how to do it. It happens to be expensive. And that's why you need the federal government stepping forward to work with the state, Dr. Nolan, and say, we'll make something happen, to step forward and say to the city, if you step forward, we'll step with you, we'll do this in partnership. And then it takes funds. And I can't tell you how pleased I am to announce today that the city of Providence will receive approximately $4 million to eradicate this problem. The state will receive an additional $3 million to eradicate this problem. You may be a small state in size, but you are a big winner. As a matter of fact, the smallest state is the biggest winner. No state has won more than Rhode Island. And Congressman Wiggin told you the truth, that when we walked in, I said to the mayor, I can't find the checks. He did not take that with the humor that I had intended it. So we found the checks, otherwise we were afraid we couldn't leave the city of Providence. And I'd ask the delegation now to please help me in presenting the checks, one to the city of Providence and one to the state of Rhode Island. Congratulations.
Rhode Island. You want this one there. You want this one. That's bigger. You want this other one.
That was a great announcement. And you know something? The apple doesn't fall far from the tree, does it? Isn't he a great speaker? One of the best speakers on America. There was some mention of the mayor's conference in Washington, and I've been going to them for years, as you know. And I can tell you that, and there are a lot of urban leaders of great reputation and knowledge and tremendous, shall I say, stature. And they all sit in the audience. They're mayors of large cities, larger than ours. They're people who've been in the business of governance for a long, long time. And when Andrew Cuomo walks in to give his speech, whether it's a big crowd or a small crowd, you cannot hear a pin drop because he understands the issues, he's very passionate about them, and he also has a depth of understanding that I believe no other Secretary of HUD that I've ever dealt with ever had. And we've had good ones too. So Andrew, let me just thank you very, very much from all of us, and all these people who are in this room are very, very important to the city of Providence, because most of them who you're looking at are individuals who have had a big stake in lead paint abatement. They brought it to the attention of the government. They made us understand it. they worked hard, and they have achieved some success. But I know with your support, your understanding, your compassion, and your passion for this issue, we have been enriched as a community. And the most important thing is that we can get started in a very meaningful way to start correcting a problem that should never have existed in the first place. Yeah. And it also is going to make sure that in the future we give kids opportunities that they would never have had before. So having said all that, there are some people here who I neglected to mention with all these lights and all this. I see Senator Kells, Congresswoman, I don't mean that, Councilwoman Nolan, and our City Solicitor Charles Manzolo, and who is Councilman Patrick Butler. And are there any other elected leaders in the room? Please put your hands up. Sheldon Whitehouse. I was going to say our U.S. Attorney, but our newly elected Attorney General, Sheldon Whitehouse, and Councilman Igliazzi. He's going to be a very good Attorney General because he sneaked right up on us, so let's even know it. But anyway, can I have? I promised the Secretary that I would do something. Yes, you cannot go back. He came up to this room. Let me do that. See, we weren't supposed to do that. Yeah, right.
The marinara is getting bigger.
I'll tell you what happened. The Secretary came up here on a couple of occasions. The last time was right around November, the first part of November, and we had a little walk through this room. It was we were showing the exhibition of the 120th year of the City Hall. And where's Bianca Gray, who ran this project from here? She, he thought she was stalking him because she's in charge of this grant for us, right? And all she did was come up here, follow him around the exhibits, and all do asking about this grant. I said, leave him alone, Bianca. There's a way to do this, right? So anyway, and this is the way to do it. And the way to do it is to send Andrew Cuomo home with some of the best Parmesan cheese, a prosciutto, and some olive oil, the mayor's coffee, and the mayor's sauce. And also, we have a new thing, Andrew, will you cook at home? That's the mayor's new apron. That's for you.